the acclaimed television ratings juggernaut reality TV show Survivor is going to be filmed, shot, and produced in your part of the world, Cloncurry. What was your reaction when you heard that? Have you heard of the show? Have you
Well,
watched the
I
show?
mean, I, I mean, we are the ultimate survivors. And, when I say my family's lived between Cloncurry and Mount Isa for 150 years, near enough to it. My granddad was out there and managing the family store in the late 1800s.
Yes,
I know they used to go out to dinner with Ernest Henry, who was the pioneer that founded the town.
it's going
Um,
back.
but and I thought, that's terrific. The irony of that is just unbelievable because that's the home of the Colquhoun. And they fought the white fellas for about 60 years. The Colquhoun Wars went on. And there was an estimated about 120 white fellas killed in the Colquhoun Wars.
Goodness.
And funnily enough, there was about an estimated 120 black fellas killed in the Colquhoun Wars. They fought each other to a bloody standstill. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot of deaths, but when you see it was about half the population,
Well, it would have
the
been.
entire Gulf of Carpentaria was dead by the time they petered out. But this is the survivor part. The Colquhouns are the most land-rich people on earth. They've got 3.5 million acres of above 23-inch rainfall. So they survived. The originals, they survived.
Wow. So certainly, sounds like it's sacred ground where this television show will be shot and filmed. It's pretty harsh country up there. Do you think?
Mount Remarkable is called Mount Remarkable, and my partner was an old Colquhoun, old black fella, and but yeah, I was with him because he's very smart on mining, very, very smart, and smartest man around across when it came to mining, and
Right.
but I got lost twice, but thank goodness he was with me. He said, "Would you please realise that Mount Remarkable is a spike, right? When you're north of it. When you're beside it, it's a mountain range. When you're north of it, it's a spike.
Right.
When you're beside it, it's a mountain range." So, it's very deceitful. And this is why it's called Mount Remarkable, of course. It's very narrow on top, and it just spears straight up into the air. And but there were 6 Colquhouns and 2 police seriously injured, but 6 Colquhouns were shot up on top of
Have you ever
that
watched?
last stand.
Have you ever watched Survivor?
Yeah, they did one in Tully, at the back of Ingham, there at
In the range there.
there were big waterfalls. There's 1,000-foot waterfalls there. I'm just trying to think of the name. Blencoe Falls.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, at the back of Ingham or back of Tully, Blencoe Falls.
So you
And
think?
and I watched that one. Yeah, but can I just go on with the Survivor theme? Because there's a bit of
Certainly.
a story here, right?
Certainly.
There's the Colquhouns, right? They're the first mob there, right? They survived. You with me?
I'm with you.
Right. Ernest Henry, the founder of Cloncurry and Hewenden, survived with a spear in the back and out the front. He rode 3 days right into town with a spear through him.
Jesus, that is a
That's
survival.
survival. That's a survivor.
Goodness
Right.
me.
Qantas had the most number of fatal crashes recorded by any airplane company in world history, and people kept flying on it. Well, for the last 100 years, almost, it's never had a single crash. So, Qantas is a survivor.
It certainly is.
The Gilmores were sheep people that went to Cloncurry, the Gilmores, and Dame Mary Gilmore is on the $10 note. She's buried in the Cloncurry Cemetery.
Wow.
And the Gilmores survived. In fact, Dame Mary Gilmore's husband's great grandson happens to be the Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison. So the Gilmores survived pretty good.
I'm holding a $10 note now. That's Mary Gilmore up from
Yeah,
Cloncurry.
yeah. She's a bit of a wild girl, let me tell you. But a very romantic story, actually, because she played up with everyone. She had it off with Red Ted Theodore, the most important person in Australian history. She had it off with J.T. Lang, and she had it off with Henry Lawson notoriously, and
Right.
but
There you
also
go.
Banjo Patterson. But she was a wild girl. But the funny part about it was she when she was to be buried, she wanted to be buried beside her husband. It was a little obscure cowcock from bloody Cloncarroll. It was really a romantic story,
So
Um,
she's
the,
buried up there.
yeah, well, the probably the biggest bank robbery in Australian history took place. They robbed both banks and the railway payroll. And according to the latest book on it, every family in the town was involved. I have to say, including my family. but I mean, it was serious. And there was never anyone even investigated.
No
In
charges
the
there.
whole bloody town. But including the coppers, I might add.
Goodness, what era are we talking? What year? Do you know? Or roughly?
It was during that depression. Everyone thought it was a good thing, because the banks wouldn't give us any money, so we took the money ourselves.
Go and pinched it.
They're regarded as great heroes, the people involved.
Bob,
The Royal Flying Doctor Service, no one ever thought it'd survive, and it's gone from strength to strength. And out of the Royal Flying Doctor Service came the School of Distance Ed. Now, the Charters Towers School of Distance Ed, which carries, is the biggest school in Queensland. It's climbing up to 3,000 students.
Is that right?
Yeah. Remember that a lot of people now won't send their kids to school. They do homeschooling. It's nothing to do with COVID. I'm talking about, for the last 10 years. Two of my 9 staff are homeschooled.
Oh, is that right?
Been to school. Yeah, people don't like schools anymore.
Well, I suppose it's
right. So, but it went on to it recorded the hottest temperature ever recorded in Australian history.
What figures are we talking there?
54 degrees Celsius.
Goodness. And you don't know roughly when that might have been?
I think we cheated between you and I, but anyway.
Just
the record
nudged up a couple of degrees centigrade.
Yeah. The Catters, my family, in Cloncurry, my grandfather was deputy mayor back in the 1920s, and we're still in politics.
So speaking of survivors, Bob, speaking of survivors in Cloncurry, I wonder how long are you going to be there for?
Well, I don't know. How long's a piece of string, Bloody Ronnie Purse, my best mate, still bloody roping in radio's a bastard at 84.
Goodness me.
He'd reckon I was a biker if I pulled the pin. But so I suppose you could say the Catters were in politics. He's deputy mayor, my grandfather, back in the 1920s.
Well, I reckon, Bob, that's probably a good place to leave it. I think if we're talking survivor...
No, we just got one more.
Sure.
We had a failure, mate. We had a failure.
Right.
The ALP was birthed in the shearing sheds of Western Queensland.
Oh, yeah, Longreach.
And one of the biggest confrontations, which left 3, arguably 4 people dead, was in the shootout at Waltzing Matilda was written there. The station. Susie, what's the name of the station? Anyway, it's between Winton and Cloncurry, but it's closer to Cloncurry, so we claim it. But the ALP was birthed out of the Great Shearers' Strike, right? Well, we had one failure. It never survived. We only had one failure. Right, mate. Well, listen, I'll leave you to it.
I appreciate your time.
And Harry, but that's really funny that Survivor. The minute I heard, I thought, well, you couldn't pick a better place because we are survivors.
That's right. That's right. No, I was interested to hear your take on it.
Starting with the original mob, the Cockatoons. Right, mate. See you.
Thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.